Are you a dungeon master looking to enhance your game but you're low on money? Don't worry, I got your back. Welcome to the Attic Dungeon. My name is Sam, and whether you just want to play some background music or be a fantasy DJ, I'm here to help you with everything. Before we get into the meat and bones of today's episode, I want to thank you all for watching my episodes. And don't forget, if you want to help me out even more, subscribe, click the bell, spread my nonsense to other D&D interested people, and together we'll make the Attic Dungeon into something truly marvelous. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pretty long while since I made another video for Dungeon Masters, and here it is. We're going to talk about one of the things that I like to plan out the most when DMing. It's actually one of the things I actually put some time in. It is music during sessions. There's different ways you can do it. We're going to talk about very simple ways of doing it and how you can up the game pretty heavily by choosing the correct music and sometimes even timing it with what you're doing. Now, why did I select music to talk about? There's many ways you can enhance your game, both virtually and in real life. You can have the most wonderful maps. You can have beautiful tokens or miniatures on your maps. You can have lighting effects. You can I have a guy in real life uses smoke as well. He builds entire volcanoes on his table, so to speak, and there will be smoke and lighting happening. But all of these things take time and money. Not everybody has those in abundance, especially not if you're still prepping the rest of your session as well. But I find that music is something that is relatively time effective and very cost effective because the internet is filled with great things you can use, music, sound bites, what have you, to up the immersion of your game dramatically. And what we're going to talk about today are different ways of doing this. And we'll start, obviously, at the simplest way of using music in your session. And this is really if you're a new dungeon master, you've done your first 2 sessions, and you're going like, okay, this is going pretty well, but I want to add something extra to the environment. Music is a wonderful first stop. And if you don't want to spend too much time on it, it's very simple. You look through your notes. Let's say your players are going to be visiting a town. You expect them to hit the shops, the markets, the usual stuff. But you're going to have them ambush in a smaller street that they'll walk through. It's very simple then. You go to YouTube. You look for some fantasy town mix. There's really loads. If you haven't looked for this yet, there is loads of fantasy mixes on YouTube that you can very easily use in your game. All you need is a laptop or some other medium to play music with. You know already that I'm a very digital dungeon master. All my notes and stuff are on my laptop, so it's a very low-key effort for me to add music. It's just one tab on my browser that I'll have to open up to play everything else next to my tab with my notes. So you can start with some light fantasy music, and the moment you have your players ambushed by the assassins in the small street or whatever, have a second track ready. Have some exciting combat music or some very threatening sounding music at the ready. You can even start playing this right before they get attacked, and maybe they'll catch a hint of, oh, the mood's changing, something's going to happen here. And that's what you want music to do. You want music to set the mood. You want music to draw your players in, and something as simple as just having 2-hour background mixes of music can already achieve this very, very nice goal, which is wonderful. The next thing that you can do, and it's a bit more complicated, and if all goes well, I'll be showing you some stuff on how I do this in this video, but you can go to a site like tabletopaudio.com, one of my personal favorites, and they have a lot of stuff for you to work with. They have these same background mixes that you can find on YouTube. They often already mix in some ambient noise. Stuff like chattering of people on the market will be mixed into. If there's battle music and it's a large-scale battle, there might be some sound of people fighting in there, already pre-mixed, very nice. But they also have a wonderful sound pad feature, which really works like long-term soundboard, so to speak. The one that I have open right now on my computer is the Age of Sail one. And what it does, it gives you around, let's say 28 buttons, maybe a bit more, 32-ish, no, it's 28. For this nautical setting that I've opened, Age of Sail, obviously has to do with boats. And it has a lot of different sounds that you can play on loop if you want to, or one time. For example, a cannon shot, you probably don't want to loop those unless your boats have machine gun cannons, who knows. But the creaking of a mast, for example, is a very atmospherical sound that you can have playing on the background while your players are on a ship. It also has different speeds, like the bow wash, the sound the waves make against the bow of your ship. It has different strengths in this. You can have a really slow going ship, have this light bow wash, but if your ship is catching more and more speed, you can increase the sound and put on stronger wave sounds to create a nice atmosphere. There's also even some background music in there as well. You can have some sailors singing, some combat music, even some sirens singing a song there if you're into that kind of thing. And this all sounds a lot and difficult, but honestly, you just press a play button. The most logical looped sounds are already going to be on loop, like sailors working on deck. That sound is already on loop. You can turn it off if you want to, but it's on loop. Whereas the cannons by default are off loop, so you just click it, a cannon will go boom, and that's it. And that's basically what this consists of. You go to whatever setting you want to. There's a lot. There's taverns, inns, those are the same. There's towns, taverns, boats, vampire settings, westerns, space planets, anything you want, they'll have a soundboard for it. And you just get this array of play buttons that you can click to play the sound with a nice little background music that you want. And you can just click it again to turn it off when the effect is gone, which is really good. I've used it a lot in my Horde of the Dragon Queen campaign that I ran. To very great effect, actually. Again, they usually have songs with different atmospheres within the same sound pad, so you can swap out nice and gentle forest walk music for forest combat music, for sound for traps going off, whatever you want, they'll have it. Really great site to use to get your feet wet into timing sounds together with your game. And the more you get into this, if you like what this is, you can actively plan out, okay, that session, that and that is going to happen, and I will need such and such sound. This site truly works wonders for that. The last bit that I want to talk about, yes, last already, it's going to be a pretty short video because I don't see the use of talking about using music in your campaign for half an hour. Also, we're in the summer months and then the attic dungeon is more like the attic inferno, so I don't want to be up here sweating for hours actually. So, the last thing that I do with music in my games, and I started doing this, no, the first time I did it was actually pre-corona, but I've started doing this again very recently, a few months ago. Not that very recently, a few months ago. And that is to time specific tracks that you select beforehand with specific moments in your narrative. The first time I did this was very simple. My party in the campaign they were playing was going to encounter their very first dragon. They were all new or pretty new players as well, so that is truly one of the epic moments in the game. I mean, it's your first dragon in a game that is called Dungeons and Dragons. It should be really good. And now what I did, very simple, I took the Skyrim theme, which is obviously all dragony and it's about the Dovahkiin and what have you. I mean, everybody who's played Skyrim is like, dragon stuff is going to happen because it's the theme that plays whenever you fight a dragon in game as well. And it has this slow start where there's some minor chanting and a bit of drums and what have you. And I started playing that the moment they entered the hallway where the dragon would be. And I timed my narrative, me describing the room and what have you, so that at the moment that the dragon came inside, the music also completely opened up and the theme started playing. This immediately sets an incredible atmosphere if you time it well. And don't be afraid, important, I almost forgot, don't be afraid to use cliche music. Yes, I used the Skyrim Dragonborn theme to open a dragon fight. You know what? Because it's an awesome song. You don't always have to go and look for the most indie fantasy dragon fight music. If your players are into those well-known themes, use them, because the moment your players hear the Skyrim song being played, they know there's going to be dragons involved and they're going to be on guard, and the atmosphere is going to be a little bit more tense than when you were using some random fantasy mix. More recently, to give you a second example, I aside from D&D, I also played One Ring, which is obviously a Lord of the Rings themed role-playing game. Really good. If you haven't played it, go have a look at it. And my players were riding into a storm, but it was a bit of a mystical storm. It didn't immediately just announce, hello, I'm a storm, I'm going to give you some lightning. No, it actually started with tiny will-o-wisps appearing, tiny flickers of blue light here and there on a spear, on a helmet, on a rock, whatever. And then, once they saw those, all of a sudden, it starts raining, thundering at like maximum speed. And to do that abrupt change from this almost fey mood where you have these glowing lights into the full force of a thunder like the likes they've never seen before, I used Davy Jones' theme from Pirates of the Caribbean. For those of you that don't know it, it has this little music box intro, very gentle, tinkly music box intro, and then from one moment to the other there's a heavy organ that starts playing, really full frontal organ music. And obviously the only thing I could do here was describe all the will-o-wisps and the lights and the this and the that. The intro takes like a minute, which sounds like a long time, but really when you're setting a scene, a minute is not that long of a time. So I was describing the scene, and the moment I knew, I timed this beforehand. I checked, oh look, the track that I have at 1.4 minutes, it bursts open into organ music. So I time my narrative, and when I see the 1.4, 0.04 obviously, minute mark approaching, I just stop for a moment, and when the organs burst out, I start narrating the storm and how bad and heavy it is and all the chaos it's causing. And I actually did get compliments from my one of my players afterwards that he immensely enjoyed the way I timed the music with the storm and the general atmosphere it creates. I mean, you go from this gentle atmosphere to total chaos within seconds because you've selected the right track. Now this of course takes more preparation time. I think it's less complicated to execute than maybe some of the sound combinations on tabletop audio, but it takes more preparation because you have to find the right track, you have to time your narrative with it, so you might even have to rehearse this once or twice before you actually do it. But the effect can be immensely good, powerful, wonderful. Don't do this with everything. I mean, if your players are entering a bar, you don't need to time your bar music perfectly with them swinging open the door. But whenever one of these big events happen, if you can reinforce it with music, that is actually really good. It's a low prep time taking thing you can do to really up the immersion of your games. Your players will respond to this if it's done well. Take music that you know, go look for music. It doesn't matter if you use cliche songs or something completely different. Music, for me personally, is my favorite way to enhance the atmosphere in a game. And there we are, that's actually my basic talk about music for now. I am now going to flee the Attic Inferno, and hopefully in 2 weeks when I have to record my next session, it's going to be slightly cooler than it is today. Dear people, I do really hope you enjoyed my small explanation here. Let me know how you use music in your sessions or any other form of sound that you actively use to dress up your D&D sessions or other games. Honestly, I don't care. And if all goes well, I'll see you all in 2 weeks in the Attic Dungeon.